G'day, guys. Welcome back to Season 3, Episode 13 of the SuperCoach Swordplay potty. Unfortunately, you only see two of us this evening. Our good man Spills has left his laptop at work, had a bit of a horror show, as he said to us in the messenger tonight. So the great man will not be with us tonight, but he's left some notes for us and a couple of slides that we'll go through. But fortunately, I am joined by another absolute legend, my co-host that is with me each week, Janath. How are you, buddy? How's weekends going? And I think for both of us this week, it's happy finalising team week. How you going, mate?
Going well, mate. Carlton had the bye, so a relatively stress-free weekend. Just enjoying things at the moment, taking it a day at a time, but it's all going well. Supercoach wise, very happy with how the buys went. So got a pretty good score, 2163. So a top 1K score for the round actually. And I guess just as a whole, if we look at the buys, climbed from 3,603 at the end of round 11, just before the buys, and now sitting at 1,574. So into the top 1.5K. Very happy with that. Trades for last week, brought in the big cement bag, Christian Petrarca, Marcus Windhager, and we'll talk about this bloke a bit later, but Tyrell Dewar. Now, never heard of him, never seen what he looks like, but he's going to be quite important going forwards. We'll chat a bit about him. And over the 4 buy rounds, scored 8,193 points, which I think if we have a look at the average in the top 10%, that was 7,887 points. So good buy planning seems to have paid off with the rank rise and the points that we see there. Yourself, DR, how was your week? And most of all, how was your Supercoach team? How's it tracking?
Well, very good. Well, before I get into that, mate, just congratulations. I tell you, all of a sudden, really knocking on the door of the top 1K. And from where you started from, mate, that is a phenomenal effort. So the cream is rising to the top, Janath, and I'm very, very confident that you managed to crack that, mate. So congratulations. Look, my weekend, mate, started off, it was an absolute cracker, to be honest. So went to Marvel Stadium to see the Lions take on the Saints, met up with the 2 longest serving members of the channel in Causa and Jono. Now, you've met Causa before, mate. We know that Causa is an absolute giant. Jono, I reckon's got him in height. So you can imagine how big Jono is as well, mate. It was the land of the giants, but the BFGs, mate, the big friendly giants, because they are 2 absolute legends, mate. So had a really good night there, mate. And Harris Andrews, I tell you what, almost super coach. God, what a game that was from Harris. One of the most dominant performances that you will see from a defender this year. He's a lock for all Australian, Janath. An absolute lock, mate. Don't give me Ballards and Moores. Give me Harris Andrews any day of the week, mate. Our captain, locked for all Australian after that performance, and watch him just have a red hot end to the season as well, mate. And look, I don't want to say this, I don't want to brag about Harris too much because he was playing on our man Kama, who I know watches the potty, and I'm keen to get Kama on as a bit of a guest one day. So, Kama, you know, there's no shame in lowering your colours to the all Australian lock for this year, mate. But Kama, you'll fight back next week, mate. So I'm not going to go too much about Harris's performance, but back to Supercoach, mate. Weekly score for me was 1898. I managed to score 7,984 over the 4 weeks for the buys, so close to 8,000, but not quite. I think that's okay at the end of the day, mate. Last week, pretty much all my primos went well, but the rookies, they were duds, you know, Marrick, Humphrey, Weddle, Ashcroft, Windy, all underperformed, and I only had 18 on field, so I had to take each and every one of those scores. But as I said, primos did okay, and coming into the buys, I was ranked 14,448, and finishing the buys, what am I now? 8,640. So climbed almost 6,000 ranking spots, which was nice, but my aim was to get a little bit close to the top 5K. But all in all, a pretty successful buy period, I think, mate. And to get a little bit better than the average, I suppose you've got to take that, buddy.
That's massive, mate. 6,000 ranking spots is big time. And you're telling me about where I've come from. Come on, mate. We're both cut from the same cloth this year, clearly, because we both started in the dumps, and we made our way into the top 10K. And I think that in itself goes to show that sometimes you just got to be the nice guy, and you just got to take it as it comes, take all the punches, and just keep bounce him back, and that's exactly what you've done, mate. I just want to add a side note to the Harris Andrews discussion, but I feel like that's 3 sort of 150 scores against Caminiti. Siebel went 170. James Sicily went 170, and now Harris Andrews decides to pop out a nice 150. Might have to ring up Cam, say who's taking you, or who do you reckon will take you the next week? Might bring them in draft. Tom Barras this week.
Now, do you know what's happening here? Cam is playing draft. He's got all these blokes from his draft side, I reckon, mate. Cam is doing the shifty here and putting SuperCoach before AFL football, I think. He loves the game, mate. He does love the game, Cam. But you're right, mate. He has, led out a few big scores. Now, quickly, mate, as well, Spills has quickly sent this through. He scored 1948, which is a top 3% overall. Still jumped 632 spots overall. 8 rank rises in a row for the great man. Took Dunkley's VC score of 122. Traded in Neil, Wintager, and Marich with 19 scores on field. So very rapid fire round review from Spills before we get into it, mate. Anyway,
that's it. Well, do you want to take it away with your rant then? So I get a feeling that you have a bit of the X vibe today. Where are we going?
The X's are killing me, mate. Look, it's going to be a quick rant. I can't complain too much. You win some, you lose some. But, talking about that terrible, terrible starting team that I have, the Flanders, the Bruins, you just shake your head. What on earth was I thinking? The Nazires of the world, who you've now brought in, mate, after I traded him out. But, you think about what Nazire did in the weekend, mate. You had Flanders hit the ton, Bruin with a 97. 2 other blokes I recently traded out, and Johnson, 99. You get 98 from a Seamus. Ridley's been killing it. Doherty's come back to form. It is just killing me, mate. All of my X's are just making me pay and going, sucked in DR. That's what you get for losing the faith and moving us on. Getting some new shiny toys in your side. Brother, you are missing out big time here, they're saying. So a bit of a slap in the face from the X's, Janath, is getting me a little bit frustrated because, you obviously follow your own players like a hawk, but you also have a really, really cheeky view at all the players that have left your side that are no longer there, the other teams may have, that are playing pretty well. So it just seems like I've got this curse. As soon as I get them out, they come good. So, yeah, it seems like whoever I trade out does come good. So don't do what I do. Maybe do the opposite of what I do, and you may get some nice on-field scores in the future. So very quick rant, that one, mate, but the X's are slapping me in the face. No good at all, brother. No good at all.
That was a good one. That was good. The list kept going on. It's like, when's it going to... Well, come on, you can't be too hard on yourself. Someone like Sam Flanders, absolutely spud for 5 weeks, comes back in, doesn't just score 100, steals Big Bailey Humphrey's role as well. Humphrey Bears.
Wiped him from relevance now. Wipes him from relevance.
He's now in a forward pocket. He's almost like, this isn't my sort of cover for the rest of the year. So a lot of plans hinge around Bailey Humphrey now, and I reckon a lot of our mailbag questions we'll get to a bit later. Focus on that. Well, do we want to head into our discussion points then?
Let's get into it, mate. Well, we have a few discussion points this week as well. And the first one is basically the importance, Janath, of non-playing players to facilitate loops. Now, there was a name that you mentioned there before, Mr. Tyrell. Both of us, mate, he's made his way into our sides, and we do not know him from a bar of soap. But it doesn't matter, Janath. It doesn't matter, as you know. But for those people that think we are absolutely off our heads going crazy here, mate, because people are thinking, hang on, boys, we've got dead rookies all over the shop, and you're bringing in a man named Tyrell who plays for West Coast, you know nothing about. What on earth are you doing, mate? Can you tell everybody out there that may be listening the method behind the madness of getting someone like a Tyrell into our sides this week?
Well, I reckon to help out with this, if you want to bring up your team, DR, you've also brought the great man in. I actually brought him in last week, just a bit of forward planning for my team, which I'll show. But I'll show you here. You got Tyrell Dewar sitting there at F7 at the moment. So he's actually a defensive forward. Now, there's 2 defensive forward 102.4K rookies, which is the cheapest in the game. And that's Dewar from West Coast and Oscar Riccardi from Geelong. Now, the big difference there is you might have heard of Riccardi, but he's got a bad fixture in terms of loophole fixture. You've got early games. It's hard to swing with your forward defenders. And I guess the big sort of tick with Dewa is that he's a defensive forward, and that allows the swing between your Himmelberg, with your Mitchell, Seamus Mitchell, with your Harry Sheasels, with your Jack Siebel, all these defensive forwards that you may have in your defense that you want to, like in your case, D, I imagine you've got Himmelberg there as your cover for your defense and your forwards. You've got Cameron
Absolutely.
as your cover for your rucks, and you've got Windhager for your cover for your mids and your forwards. And I guess the reason why I'm saying forwards there is, say that you have a defender and a forward missing in the same week. You can use Himmelberg to cover your defender, and you can use Windhager with your DPP to cover in your forward line. And it's just ideal having that coverage all across your line, so that if it's a 1 week, let's say concussion or 1 week suspension for a sling tackle, which it appears like most of our premiums this year have been getting.
No one's safe.
So, I mean, this is the sort of cover that you want. And so the importance on non-playing players at this point in the season, you're not really trading in for money. You're not going to have any trades to cash them out. You're not really thinking long-term, okay, if they make 50K here, I'm going to be able to trade them out in a couple of weeks' time. So if you have adequate bench cover like DR has there on his bench, it's almost worth bringing in a non-playing player that you can maximize all your cash, sort of leach out all that cash from your downgrade to get the best upgrade possible. So now is not the time to go half and half and get in a player that's 150K that may have decent job security. If you want a 150K player, they have to be covered for the rest of your season. And
that's the issue, isn't it? There's not too many out there at this stage of the year, mate.
And I guess the other part here is you want DPP on your benches. Even if Dubois is not going to be in the forward line, if you need a trade coming down the line and you want to trade out Harry Sheasel, let's say Harry Sheasel, and you want to get in, let's say, Jack McRae. So you can put Himmelberg on field, Dubois into defense, Sheasel to McRae, or something along those lines. Even a Will Day. Let's say you want to trade out Golden Boy Will Day, who's had the perfect role on the weekend, to Jack McRae. Same idea. Sheasel and Himmelberg at D5 and D6. Will Day out, Dubois up, Jack McRae in the forward line. And that's the power of DPP. And that's what some teams that were contemplating Harvey Harrison last week, he's a good player. But you just can't have Marich and Harrison as your F7 and F8 because it just blocks a lot of pathways in terms of cover going forward.
Absolutely, mate. And so the other thing I was thinking of here when getting the Himmelberg and Tyrell swing here is the fact that due to the fact I've got someone like Butters here and Roberts in my midfield as well, then technically for me, Himmelberg can cover all three lines. He obviously covers defense and forward, but let's just say if, even a Tom Green's out, for example, then Green goes to the bench, Windhager comes on, a forward such as your Cogs comes onto the midfield, put Windhager back to the bench, and Himmelberg will come in to cover for Cogs as well. So if you've played your DPP right, one player, and we'll call him that 23rd man, such as your Harry Himmelberg, can cover on more than just two lines. You can actually cover on three lines, depending on what other DPP that you've got there. And that's why I thought last week in particular, it was really important to bring someone in like a Darcy Cameron, because you've got someone like a Himmelberg that can cover those three. He can't cover the ruck, though. What an easy solution that is. DCAM as your D6, as your F6 for the rest of the year. I think he'll average enough to be a really reliable on-field option, and that cover is just going to be absolutely invaluable because we can't be carrying people like Samson Ryans anymore. It's just not viable. We need to be moving these blokes on, downgrading, upgrading to reach our final side. So, the use of DPP, I think, is extremely important there, mate. Yeah, but we've got your final side up, Janath.
Well, I was going to say, before we get to that, do you want to sort of discuss what your final upgrade is?
Yeah, well, this week I actually used a boost. So I had another boost that just sitting there, Janath. Decided to take advantage of that. I'd planned on using it during the bios on multiple weeks, but just didn't happen. Plans changed. And so this week, there's 3 blokes that go out, and that's Josh Weddle, Ashcroft, and Humphrey B. Bear. All done their jobs really, really well. Been terrific plays for me and really important plays in my side, because Cash Gen at one stage was looking dire. So Weddle and Humphrey in particular, being able to trade them in at the optimal time really has allowed me to now make my final upgrade and get an absolute uber premium in. So in comes Tyrell, as we just mentioned before. Himmelberg basically comes in for Weddle there. And then Ashcroft, we get the big cement bag, Christian Petrarca. So really for me, mate, it came down to three choices here. And that was Clary, who is obviously wiped out now. We just can't go Clary for obvious reasons. And the other bloke was Libba. So I was really, really keen on Libba, really rated his season. He's only in around 8 to 9% of sides at the moment. So a really nice pod. But at the end of the day, given the fact I have Bont already in my side, I decided to go with Petrarca just as that extra captaincy option, mate, because if I've got Libba, you have to choose between Libba and Bont, whereas if I've got that other Uber in track playing for Melbourne, it just gives me that other option. And we've talked about this for probably the last few weeks now, but a good captaincy score can give you 1,000s plus spots in the ranks just in a week, mate. So that's the reason why I've gone the big cement bag there. And so for a final side, Dacos, Stewart, Dawson, a really popular selections there. If you look at the top 1% of sides, I think 95% plus own those 3 there. Then you got the Seagull, who you'd probably rather have maybe a Ridley, a Lloyd, even a Ryan, a Sinclair for sure there. So that's a little bit of a weak point. Will Day came back and Sheasel, but having Himmelberg there as well to be able to maybe loop between, say, a Day, Sheasel, and Himmelberg from week to week, I think that's going to be handy, mate. Then you got your Bont, Petrarca, Laird, Merritt, Butters, and Neil. So I'm really happy with those top 6 there. Green, I think lots of people is okay. And then Steele, I'm not wrapped with, but at the end of the day, I've got 4 trades left. If he's worrying me that much, I can always go down to 2 and upgrade him to another Libba type, let's just say. And then Gawn and Briggs in the ruck. Kizza, I absolutely love. Gawn, I hate. Here's another one similar to Steele that I'd love to be able to get up to an English type. Whether or not I choose to do that, maybe with a month to go, we'll wait and see. But for now, I'm just going to leave those 4 trades in the bank, and really happy with the forward line. Dunks, Taranto, Rosie, and Goulden are really popular options. Cogs there is that okay type option, pretty safe type option, I think. And then Decam as that final piece, ruck cover, as well as some nice on-field scoring as the R1 for Collingwood, mate. So, look, am I happy with it? I'd love maybe just say for a Day or a Sheasler Sinclair, let's just say, and maybe instead of a Steele, a Brayshaw would be nice, and a Gawn for an English or a Wits. But apart from that, you can't have them all unless you're the number 1 side or ranked in the top 10 at this stage, mate. So from where I came and having 4 trades left with that 23rd man in Himmelberg, I think I'm in an okay spot, particularly when there's other teams, maybe with a couple left looking for that final upgrade, or with no trades at all. And hoping that there's no major injury curses from the SuperCoach gods, mate. So, I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10, buddy. 7.5 out of 10.
And how much cash?
I've got about 45K in the bank, so 44,000 something. So 45K in 4 trades, mate. So,
and for the viewers, that's really important, because that means that if a disaster was to happen and one of your players was to get injured in the first couple of minutes of the game and they lose, let's say, 30K, and you're just stuck there with no money in your bank, and you have to decide, well, you don't want to use 2 trades to trade out one guy, right? So
exactly,
you're stuck with that same amount of money. But in your case, DR, you sort of have that wiggle room there that, all right, if either for a luxury upgrade, if the prices match, or if you have an injury trade that you need to make, you sort of have that wiggle room to just say, okay, I can sort of broaden my scope as to who I want to bring in. And that's really important going forward.
Always handy to have that little bit extra in the bank, isn't it, buddy?
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Should we take a look at your final side, mate?
It's very similar. Very similar.
All right.
But let's bring it.
All right. Here we go. Take us through it, legend.
So as you can see, there's the final team there. I'll just start off by saying the forward line is the exact same. like the
Beautiful.
exact same in terms of
Oh, even with Tyrell.
positions, the vice captains, the emergencies, Tyrell, the GOAT. Defenders, very similar. Just got Nazaya Wangani Malera. I did come back to the X there. Started Naz. Then went back to him. Almost got injured and subbed out last week. I was like, oh, here we go again. But 116, he's a good player. He's got a very good role. And with the run of Marvel games, I'm looking forward to seeing how he can go. Midfield, we differ a little bit because I've got an extra defender, actually. And so Jordan Dawson is in my midfield. So you got an extra forward. You got 7 forwards. I've got 7 defenders.
Yes,
so Dawson's
yes.
in there. Libba is in there. So Libba's my final upgrade this week. So I'll be going Bailey Humphrey and Matty Johnson, who Matty Johnson was a trade in just before the buys, forecasting that he would be available for the last 3 buys. And he's got 2 90s in those 3 weeks. So really, really thank you, Matty J. You did your role perfectly and you got a little corky at the end, but you've done your job. So
Nice
thank you very much. We salute you. So Matty Johnson's out, Bailey Humphrey's out, Tom Liberatore's in. And at the moment, I've got Elijah Hewitt in at M9. Oh, sorry, not M9, what is that? M11? Or, yeah. And I mean, he's just there. If I could get a 102k playing defender, I would. That would leave me 40k in the bank as well. If it doesn't, I'll just roll with Hewitt because, like, yes, Windhager is good cover there, but you just never know. You never know if Windhager gets dropped, if he himself gets injured, that you sort of just want another. Yeah. You just want another level of cover, and I reckon Hewitt could be handy, but I don't really want to be paying 140k going against the concept which I was bringing up before, that you just want to milk those rookies as much as possible for all the cash that they have. So yeah, and with the midfield, Bont, Petrarca, Laird, Merritt, Neil, Green, we have all 6 of them. I've got Sinclair. Sorry, I forgot to mention. So Dawson was in your defense. I got Sinclair and Wangani Malera. So I'm really going for the Saints defenders. You are really going against the Saints defenders.
Yes,
that's the main difference there. Libba, really looking forward to his run. I'll tell you what, DR, and hear me out here. The Bulldogs have such a friendly run home in terms of midfields. It is ridiculous. And this is the big ticker. Tom Liberatore is owned by 15% of the top 1%. Christian Petrarca is owned by 40% of the top 1%.
Big difference, isn't it? And
do you want to guess? So they've got, between round 21 and round 23, they have Richmond at Marvel, Hawthorn at UTAS, and West Coast at Marvel. The Bulldogs. That was last week. We were saying how I was aiming to get 2 of Petrarca, Libba, Oliver in these last week and this week. So obviously Clary's made that decision easy. But Libba was the one. I got to shout out my boy, Mini Tran, one of my old school mates. He was on Libba from round 7. And
nice call, Mini Tran.
He's been rubbing it in. So finally jumped aboard. He's very happy with that. But no, just one to consider that. Oh, it's so hard to go past Petrarca, but each to their own in that sense. I've got him anyway. So
the fact you've got them both, they're two. Geez, you'd love to have them both. It is so tight, the decision. As I said, it's just come down to that captaincy option, mate, that just got Petrarca over the line. Because look, Libba, you're saving around 40k there as well on Libba. So that 45k in the bank gets closer to 90k. Decisions.
Just one to ponder. And just to finish up here, Tim English and Rowan Marshall in the ruck. So we've got completely different ruck lines. They'll be really interesting. I think Briggs is probably better than Rowan at this stage. Just Rowan's a bit inconsistent. Kiz are just, at the moment, epitome of consistency. And just to emphasize, this is the Tyrell Dewar, Seamus Mitchell swing. That's the cover I was talking about before. So team's looking okay. I don't want to say it's more than a 7.5. They're just doesn't seem right.
Oh, it
But
is, mate. It is. We live off the Petrarca. Come on, mate. Like,
3 trades left. So you got an extra trade and you got more money at the moment. Just depends with Elijah Hewitt, obviously. So I've got about less than 5K, let's say. Just at the moment, if I get rid of Hewitt and bring in a different 1 or 2K person, I'll probably have 40K-ish, which is about right at this stage. Cool.
Beautiful, mate. Well, as I said, mate, looking at this team, definitely going to make your way, hopefully, inside that top 1K, buddy, because
That is the goal.
you've been absolutely smashing it so far to date, mate. Smashing it
Thanks,
so far
mate.
to date. All right. Well, good chat there, mate. Next, we've got here the captaincy. Oh, sorry, no. Well, we've pretty much, do you think we've discussed the importance of non-playing players to facilitate loops? Pretty much done that there, mate.
I reckon, yeah. Well, the teams
that
both
there.
emphasize the point of that is that unless you want to get another level of cover, it's really just about banking in your rookies and making sure you can facilitate coverage across lines. Yeah.
Awesome, mate. All right, so the next thing we're going to take a look at, mate, here, and we've got a slide for this, is a captaincy conundrum. Now, we often see on Twitter, different social media platforms, that people are complaining about losing lots and lots of points due to their captaincy and vice captaincy choices. Now, you've put together a little table here, mate, because there are a few misconceptions that go on around this particular topic. So do you want to take us through your great work here and tell us what you've got for scenario 1 and scenario 2, buddy?
Sure thing, mate. So I guess where I'm really coming from here is a lot of people talk about the line. So DR, what is your threshold for taking a VC score normally?
Look, usually, mate, it's always been a 125. A 125,
Yeah.
but that can vary week upon week. But generally, that's where I'd go, mate. The 125.
All right. That's good. You gave me a nice round number. So 125 times by 2 is 240. So 250. Sorry, maths. 250. Now let's say what a lot of people think is that all right, my C can go 140. So 140 times by 2, 280. So that means that my difference in captaincy score will be 30 points for that week. Now, technically, you are right. But the thing that you fail to consider there is that you'll still get the score of your VC. So in scenario 1, we're just playing it by ear. Let's say Petrarca plays on a Thursday night. You plonk the VC on him and he gets 123. Now, I highly recommend to take that because, yes, you'll see. So let's say Marcus Bontempelli on the Saturday goes 140. So if you own both Petrarca and Bontempelli and you take Petrarca's VC, you'll get 123 times 2 plus 140. So that's 386 points. Now, you don't get... And if you risk Petrarca's VC and you go C on Bontempelli, you get 123 plus 140 times 2, and that's 403 points. You only gain 17 points. You only gain the difference in the points between the two players' scores, not that multiplied by 2. And that's really important to consider because even if Bontempelli goes 160, you'll only gain 37 points, not 74. And so if that's what's holding you back from taking a 120 to 125 VC score, this is something that's really important to consider because if this goes the other way and Petrarca gets 123 and then your C Bontempelli only gets 110, you lose 13 points. So it's that risk reward scenario. I know a lot of us in round 1 this year had the VC on Bontempelli. He goes 107. And we all fall back on Laird. He gets 50. That's a 57-point loss right there. But it's not 114 points, which is what a lot of people were thinking at that point in time. So in both scenarios, you don't gain as much as you'd hope you gain from risking the VC, and you don't lose as much as you think you'd lose if you don't take your VC score, early VC score. Typically for me this year, after that Laird debacle, anything above 120, we'll just take it and run.
Oh, there's been some nightmares, hasn't there, mate?
But hopefully this sort of outlines it a bit better. The fact is you don't get times 2 the difference. It's just times 1, so long as you own both players. Now, Clayton Oliver goes 200 against Adelaide at the MCG in 3 weeks' time. Don't blame me. Don't blame the messenger. I'm just saying that's just how it rolls with the VCs and Cs. That's the common misconception. Hopefully outlined to you guys in a sort of easy to digest format.
Love it, mate. Love it. Because I have seen a lot of people complain about that particular thing, and they're actually thinking that they're missing out on twice as much as what they actually are. So, look, my advice, unless you're maybe a league player and you've got to change up the captain to maybe win a really important league match, I think that you're pretty crazy if you don't take around a 125. I think that the risk that you're taking to gain that extra, say, 15 points if you're after 140 is just too much. We've seen what's happened with Laird, as you mentioned. Took was another one there that I know that killed Spills, absolutely shattered Spills for that round. And all of a sudden he was playing for leagues. And I'm pretty sure after that he's seeing green arrows every bloody week, mate. So maybe that was a bit of a blessing in disguise for the old Spills. I'm not too sure. But really good discussion, mate.
How about this? Super coaches who don't take a 124 VC score because their VC threshold is 125.
Oh, Spills is that type of bloke. It was last year, I think. He was so stubborn. He was so stubborn. I think it was like maybe a 123. It might have been just this from memory. He's like, no. It's 125. I'm like, mate, it's 2 points. I forget what happened, whether or not he won or lost there. But I'll have to ask him next time, because Spills is one that's been known from time to time just to take a bit of a cheeky gamble, mate. Whereas I've been historically the safer one here. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, buddy. But
just take
good
be
chat
safe.
there, mate.
That's it. Saves a lot of stress as well.
That's right, mate. That's right. All right, mate. The next one, next topic we're going to take a quick look at here is players that are worth paying up for versus players that we look to go for maybe a little bit of value. So we obviously know that we've got those absolute uber elites, mate. We're talking all the blokes that you've got in your midfield, mate, really the Petrakas, the Livers, and these type of blokes. But then we've also got some more of those discounted options, mate. So for lots of people, they're now asking themselves a question: is it worth really paying up for one of these Ubers to finish off our sides? Or do we just look to skimp out a little bit and go cheaper, maybe have some extra cash in the bank? Where are you going with this, mate? Do you think there's a one answer that fits all sort of scenario here? Or do you think it's obviously maybe a little bit more team dependent? What's your feel on this take here, mate? Paying up for these blokes or looking for some bargains at this time of the year?
It really is team dependent. One of the metrics that I really like to look at on the SuperCoach app is price per point. And that can really help to say who's sort of underpriced. So like a Tom Green, for instance, I know a lot of teams have him, but he averages 107 and he's 525K, meaning his price per point is $4,900. Jordan Dawson, averaging 117.6, but he's 580K. Just for comparison there, Christian Petrarca's averaging 119.1 and he's 70K more expensive. But you'd take a Petrarca in a heartbeat. Now, so that's what we're sort of thinking about here is this is the time of the year where you don't sort of penny pinch. You go for your Ubers that you know will get the most points for you from here on in. And I don't think the cash is as important of a premise or idea to think about. So in your exact situation, you should go for the one out of Libba and Petrarca that you think will score the most points from here. Because you don't want to think about, all right, if I have that extra 40K, I'm going to be able to use that down the line. You may not end up using it. But what you may end up doing is you may say, oh, I wish I had Petrarca for that run in the final stretch, right? So that's what we're coming at here. But if you are in a situation where you need to use 2 trades to get to a Christian Petrarca, Tom Liberatore type, or you can use 1 trade to get Caleb Sarong, I think he goes Sarong. So that's the sort of premise is, at what point is it worth, okay, just saying, all right, money's not the issue, and money in terms of how much money I end with is not the issue here now. It's the trade as well. So how much is that trade worth? So that's what I'm going to throw to you, DR. At what point does the trade become more worth than the uber player that you're going to get in?
See, and this is the issue, mate, as you alluded to, it's so circumstantial, isn't it? It's like, well, how many trades do you have left? What's your remaining cover like? So, look, I think if you've got the luxury of having someone like, a Himmelberg, yeah, a Seamus Mitchell type, even a Benny Keys type, if you've got the luxury of being able to have one of those blokes as your 23rd premium and being able to go all the way up to an Uber premium at the same time, then I'd be going there for sure rather than leaving some extra money in the bank, just say. Now, what you've got to ask yourself as well, and this comes down to some of your personal projections, what's the average, well, the difference in average going to be between your Sarongs and your Petrarcas and your Libbers? It comes down to personal projections. Now, you can have a look at the SuperCoach app, the SuperCoach Gold, and they'll give you some projections from time to time, but often they're pretty wacky for some reason, and I would not be relying on those particular projections. I'd be backing your own gap in regards to what you think these players are going to average. So if you think that the gap's going to be, just say, 20 odd points, then absolutely go for your Uber, I think. But let's just say if you've got 4 trades left and you either use 2 trades to go up to a track or 1 trade to go to a sarong, I would go 1 trade to a sarong, and I'd be much more comfortable with 3 trades in the bank rather than 2, because that's basically an injury trade every 3 weeks from here until the end of the season. Having 2 trades, 9 rounds, you could have absolute carnage in 1 week. And, that's happened to me with, it was Darcy, Radigalia, and somebody else, I forget, but that was like bang in the 1 week. And all of a sudden you're hurting, and you're going, I wish I just had that extra trade up my sleeve. So I think if you've got 5 or more, then go for the big boy. But if you're looking at 3 or 4, particularly if you need to make that last upgrade, then I would be looking to go for that next rung below. And we both using Sarong as an example because I think he's the perfect example. He's not as strong as your Libbers, your Olivers when he comes back, or Petrarcas, but he's probably that bloke that I think is next in line, along with a range of other players as well. Yeah, and the price
really
as well.
Buying.
Look at his body of work over the whole season. He's obviously struggled a little bit with that ankle injury, but hopefully, he's past that now, and he should look to finish off the season really strongly, mate. So, I suppose what we're saying is, in a nutshell, it's pretty team dependent, isn't it? How many trades have you got, and what's your cover like? But sort of any final words maybe to bookend that one from your point of view, mate?
Yeah, I guess just to bookend that, I'll provide from my personal experience that what I'm doing this week is I'm doing Humphrey. So I have 80k in the bank, but I'm doing Humphrey and Johnson to Libba and a rookie. I could just do Humphrey to Himmelberg and call it a day, 4 trades left, that sort of thing. But I think that's at the point where it's worth going to 3 trades and getting the Uber in that hopefully I won't have to worry about for the rest of the year. But if you're going to end with less than 3 trades, because we talk about this scenario where you sort of want to have an injury trade for every 3 rounds left for the end until the end of the year. I think we have 9 rounds left, 3 trades. That should be sufficient with good cover. Again, it comes down to the type of cover that you have as well, so that you can cover the 1 week injuries, and you only need to use these trades for your longer suspensions or your just season-ending injuries. The last thing you want to have is just a donut because you can't make a trade at the end of the season because you don't have any trades. So let's avoid that. And so hopefully that sort of opens up the discussion. We're really talking about the value sort of guys here. I know that Luke Ryan, again, very similar. He looks to, especially at Optus, have that role as the last line of defense, and he plays that really well. Very, very a high level of value in that pick. Same with Sarong, same with Ridley. These are your value guys, or do you just pay up for your top guns and just back them in from here on in? And also, how much do you value them as a captaincy option? It's also something to consider because those extra points may be the difference between a top 1k finish and a top 1.5k finish. Just points to think about. I think we covered that pretty well. DR?
I think so, mate. I think so. I reckon it is now time to get into Open the Mailbag, mate. So
yeah,
I'll just get my Twitter screen up.
And just while you're doing that, I'll just have a quick sort of disclaimer about DPPs. The final DPPs will be coming in at round 18. We're not sure who's sort of going to be super relevant. There's not much data out there at the moment. I feel like everyone's sort of just got over the fact that Walsh and Gawn both got stitched up in the last round of DPPs. Sorry, DR. But yeah, it's Sam Walsh has been playing. It's a hard role because in the last couple of weeks before the Gold Coast game, he was playing more forward. He missed out on DPP, then Michael Voss put him back forward again.
Super unlucky, isn't it, mate? Super unlucky.
And then I guess Max Gawn, he could be in line for forward DPP as well. But it's like at round 18, what's the point? Because you're not going to. Or you're going to get Tim English. How are you going to get Tim English?
Well, to me, we got D came in already. Don't need him anymore. Got bloody D came in, mate. So yeah, too little, too late. Bloody Gawn DPP would have been handy a few weeks ago now, mate. But
how about next year? We'll take Gawn DPP next year.
I'll take him next year, mate. Take him next year. Yeah, that'd be a nice little present. Because I tell you what, you look at our forward lines at the moment, Dunkley, Taranto, these blokes.
Rosie,
we're going to be pretty bare for options, aren't we?
Goulden hasn't played a lick of forward. Oh, he made a play. Give him 2% forward time this year. He's barely played forward.
Tell you, it's going to be very interesting, mate. I think the makeup of our forward lines, mate. But anyway, let's get into this, buddy. We'll get into the mailbag. And again, thank you everyone that's left a question. Last couple of weeks, we haven't actually had the time to get to the mailbag due to all the really important discussion points, but it looks like we'll get to all the questions this week. So very much looking forward to it. So the first one here is from Steve Bailey. G'day, Steve. How are you, mate? A day after the mailbag, mate. Hey, legends, I'm going to downgrade Witzel Marshall for Madden to start Briggs for the cash, but which one do I keep and flick? I'm honestly 50-50, and the decision could shape my season. Input greatly appreciated. Now, firstly, as a big Kizzer owner, I cannot believe that we're even talking about him as a keeper. This is just, it's surpassed my wildest dreams with this pick. And I think it's a realistic question that we need to ask ourselves. For those people that have Kizzer currently sitting at R3, do we trade him? I suppose if you did want to trade him, it probably would have been last week anyway, if that's what you had in mind. But if you haven't traded him yet, it's probably going to be a Witz, a Marshall, or an English. So in Steve's case here, Janath, it's either Witz or Marshall. Now, first of all, I suppose the question that I need to ask before we get into Witz or Marshall, would you be keeping Kizzer, or would you be looking to trade him on before Witz or Marshall?
If you're contemplating between, so if you have Marshall, if you keep Marshall or you keep Witz and you bring in a 530k midfielder versus trading Marshall, keeping Briggs and bringing in a Liberatore. So it's basically Briggs plus Libba versus Marshall plus a Savron, let's say. I'm leaning towards the Briggs and Libba side. Now, Briggs may slow down come the end of the season, and he may be a dangerous antipod, but I feel like with you, DR, as well, you're not going to be alone. There's going to be other teams that are doing the exact same thing. I know people trade out Tim English for Darcy Cameron to get Kiz's score on field a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, if people are going to that length to get Kiz on field, sure.
Everyone wants a bit of Kizzer, mate. Everyone wants a bit of Kizzer.
Out of these two, I think Witz is the safer pick in terms of if you want a consistent score each round. Took's coming back in next week, I think. As in not this week, but next week. Yeah. That seems pretty reasonable, I think, mate. And then just go with Witz and Briggs. If Steve, that's what allows you to get that Uber premium, that's where I'd be going.
Yeah, and because you got to also take in consideration as well. Going back to the original question, do you actually keep Kizzer or trade Kizzer? But if you look at the cash difference between your Marshall and the Briggs, it could allow you to go to the absolute Uber elites. That's a really important point that you made, mate. But I'm with you. If you're looking at keeping Witz or Marshall, I just see Witz as that safer pick. So for me, it would be the combination of Witz and Briggs. So I think we're both on agreement on that one, Steve-O. Thank you very much for the question, mate. Appreciate it. Next one is from DV. How are you, champion? I'll have only 3 trades left after going full premium, including Clary. Should I keep him after holding for all this time? Janath, has there been a more frustrating hold in SuperCoach history?
I don't think
we'll need to think back. towards the
I
years
don't
here.
think I've played long enough to really
Look, there's
be
been
thinking
I
about
think some
holds like this.
yeah, there's been a couple of frustrating jelly holds, I think, which is a big reason why he's a big burn man. I'm sure if we look back at GWS's history, there's been some really frustrating. Maybe
Yeah, that
Whitfield,
is
I
true.
think, may have been a
Yep.
frustrating one in the past, but I really can't think back, mate, off the top of my head
This
to a situation like
this
this.
is another level because this is the
Oh,
most. This guy was averaging the most points in the game at the time he got injured, and that's the thing.
crazy.
Because if it was a jelly, it's just trade him out. He's probably he's going to be out for
It's easy.
4 weeks anyway. Like GWS when he got injured, like he's out for 4 weeks, and guess how much time he missed? 4 weeks. When they just know because Jelly's done it so many times, and they just know how long it's going to take. But with Clary, I feel for you, DV. Seriously, this is an absolute shocking hold. It's just one of those things where there's no point trading him out now. You've held him for 5 weeks, going on 6. He may be out next week, but at least I feel like at this point, if you've held this long, you may even be playing for leagues. And if you're playing for leagues, definitely hold him because he's going to be a dangerous pod to be going up against in the cash league or
Big time.
just the league final.
Big time. It's not a name that it's like if you finish in the top 8, you finish 5th and Geelong finish 8th or something. Not a team that you really want to come up against, or the Tigers or someone like that. It's the same as Clary, but to a bigger degree in Supercoach talk, I think it's a player that you really want. We all want him in our sides, don't we? And I think probably speaking for both of us, Janath, there's a high chance that he'd currently be sitting in our sides if he did return during the last couple of weeks. But look, given the fact, DV, that you've kept on to him this long, mate, I'm probably with Janath here. I think that you just got to ride it out, buddy. You just got to ride it out. I think that when he does finally come back, he'll hit the ground running. Maybe a little bit rusty for the first week, but think about it. For that last 6 weeks, he's a player that you'd love to have on your side as a pod. I reckon he'll be in under 20% of sides by that stage. I reckon there'll be a few other coaches this week that run out of patience, get rid of him. So I think he'll be a good pod to have, mate. Extremely frustrating situation for you, brother. But yeah, we're probably both a hold on that one.
And no one will be able to bring him in next week. Unless you've got an upgrade to like us. We've foregone Clary for the rest of the year.
You say goodbye to him now. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely, mate. Yep.
And the fact that he was ruled out on a Monday, that is so surprising to me. Because players don't get ruled out until Wednesday, Thursday, maybe. They don't even play it. They play on Sunday in Darwin. I mean, the travel maybe, but 6 days out from a game, he must be in a really, really bad state if, let's say, it is the hammy, which Melbourne
have. It's just super confusing for me, mate. Look, we won't get into it now. You could sit here debunking theories and conspiracy theories all day you like. And I've heard them all. Let me tell you, mate, I have heard them all. The most unbelievable theories around there.
There's some very interesting stuff floating around.
Isn't there? But look, all we need to know at this stage, he's not playing this week. Possibly missing the week after as well. So, an unfortunate hold, mate. But hopefully when he does come back, DV, he smashes it out of the park for you, mate, because you deserve it, brother. You deserve it. Another quick one from DV as well, while we're here, Janath. Who are 2 good premiums to complete my side? Too many to pick from. Example. So there's a few names here. We might pick 2 each here. Mills, Butters, Keys, Cripps, Wines, Walsh, McRae, and Neil. I think if you're looking for 2 here and you can afford them all, mate, there are 2 probably clear standout options for me, and that is Butters and Neil for me. Janath, would you go different to that, mate? Butters and Neil?
It's a hard question. It's a whole continuum of picks here. So I'll go a bit different in the fact that I'll say the best value pick and the best pick.
Good one, mate. Yep.
So I'll go Neil as the best pick because I think he's the best captaincy pick out of the lot. And I think Ben Keys or Callum Mills, so Keys has the role that he may lose, but he's scoring really well. Mills is scoring okay, and he's been my burn man in this year. But if he gets the role, he could be in for a really good end of the year as a cover. But I guess, DV, you're not really looking for cover in this stage. So Neil definitely. McRae, with the run that the Bulldogs have, especially with West Coast in one of the final couple of games, good shout there. Butters, the thing with Butters is his ceiling is so high, but his floor isn't as high as some of the other picks in this lot. And I think he's just been playing out of his skin, like genuinely out of his skin. And he hasn't really killed non-owners just yet, apart from that really big 184.
Yep,
And so I
totally
think
agree.
just for consistency purposes, Neil, but DR, hope for your sake and just for the sake of AFL lovers, that Zach Butters absolutely smashes it out again. He's such a gun player.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say that I'm a disappointed Butters owners because he is so fun to watch, mate. He's so fun. He's just so zippy. He's elite Zach Butters, but you nailed it on the head. I really wanted him to hurt non-owners. I really brought him in as that super point of difference to be giving me those 140s. And I'm not saying consistently week upon week, but every maybe 2-3 weeks, a really big ceiling type score. I've got some okay type scores, no disaster scores, but yeah, maybe a lack of those ceiling scores, which has been a little bit disappointing there. But yeah, I agree with you there. I really like Benny Keys as a value pick if he can keep that midfield time. And I'll just jump in for Spills here as well. Callum Mills, Spills would say. I'll guarantee you, DV.
There. He's there. He's
Mills,
there.
without question, if Spills would answer the question.
Look at him. He's got a question on his own podcast. He's got a question on his own podcast.
He's Mills a good selection. Well, I know he's already made his mind up. All right, before we get to you, great man Spills, we have Shah here. G'day, Shah. How are you, mate? Hey, guys, you're doing a great job. Love your insight in the SuperCoach. Appreciate that, brother. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
And that really does give us the motivation to keep on going, mate. So I appreciate that, mate. So 3 options here. What is a better trade-in option? Number 1, Track and Spills' boy Mills leaves Shah with 53K. Number 2, Libba and Walsh leaves you with 9K, or else Libba and Mills with 93K in the bank. Look, it depends. Are these your last 2? I'm assuming these are your last 2 upgrades, mate. If they're not, then you probably want as much money in the bank
this week.
Sorry. What's that again, mate?
It looks like he's making both this week.
Okay, so that's probably final upgrades, you'd assume, wouldn't you? All right, so you got Track and Mills. Well, we've sort of discussed here, Janath, that the difference between Track and Libba may not be that much from here until the end of the season. So if you call them, let's call them almost equal, or maybe just for this point of argument's sake, just give it to Track because you look at price, let's just say. And then you got Mills and Walsh. Well, if I was to pick between Mills and Walsh, I'm probably leaning more towards Walsh myself. As a Carlton man, how do you feel about Mills versus Walsh if we say Track and Libba are basically equal there, Janath?
The hard part with this is I struggle to tell if Mills is going to be an M9 or is going to be an M8. Because at M8, I'd rather Walsh. At M9, I'd rather a guy like Mills who has early games that you can just put the E on him and just screen his score and potentially get that on field if he goes well. So I reckon that's it. I'd say Track and Lib is a dead heat. If this is for your M8, you go Walsh, in which case you go Libba and Walsh. If it's for your M9, then you make that personal judgment decision, which I think this is a judgment decision for yourself and each team, Track or Libba, and then go with Mills in that case. But you can also wait till next week. Mills has another 40K to lose. Or 30 to 40K. And so it's hard without the context here, Shah. But yeah, Walsh at M8, Mills if he's an M9.
I would absolutely agree with that. And nice angle that you thought about there, Janath, as well, because I just assumed that they were 2 on-field spots, but it does make a bit of a difference, doesn't it, mate?
Yeah.
What the final setup's actually looking like here, Shah. But hopefully we've covered that from all angles for you, buddy. All the best of luck, my man. And a little cheeky one from Spills here. Is Mills a good selection next week at sub 400K? And I think it's probably, it goes back to that point that you just mentioned, isn't it? That you probably don't go him this week, mate. You go him next week. But Spills does love it. Little drive-by here. And this is all that, for anyone that hasn't been following, this is all that Janath here. Because Janath picked up, obviously, Mills. He was out pretty early, and Spills actually said the next week, bugger you, Janath, I'm going to pick up this man at sub 400K just to rub it in your face.
He's got an analogy. Spills... Wait. I'll tell the analogy that Spills put in. So Spills said, this is what I did. He says that I've traded 2 first-round picks for Mills and he got delisted. Now Spills is grabbing him in a mid-season rookie draft peanuts.
Let's just call him Buller. Callum Buller.
Oh man, that's all.
Oh, loves it, the old Spills. But look, Spills and Callum Mills have had history. He was going to start in 1 year. I think we've talked about it in defence. Didn't end up doing it. Rah, rah, rah. So he's just never really had him in. He's always wanted to. So he's
Might be
just
worth
loving the
asking
fact
Callum
that
where
this man is
Spills
available.
is tonight.
That's Callum and Spills. What's going on there, mate? Bit of a love affair there, I think. But look, in all seriousness, can you believe, even looking into round one, that this would be the case? Mills available at sub 400K. Unbelievable.
Wow.
The only issue is, and look, this is a question I'd ask you, Janath, and I know that the price difference, but let's just say that you had the choice between Mills and someone like a Ben Keys. Would you go someone with that DPP? Because the issue is that Mills doesn't have that DPP.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough one. Probably a different discussion, but
100%. Like the fact is that Mills may get you an on-field score in 2 of the last 9 weeks as your M9. Keys covers both lines. He may get you an emergency score in 1 of those 9 weeks. He may score 110 or 115. But in at least 1 of those other weeks, he'll cover one of your midfielders or forwards. And the problem with having Mills as your M9 as your 23rd premium is that he can only cover your midfield. And so you don't have that flexibility for coverage in your defense and your forwards, unless you also have like a Himmelberg or Mitchell type, which I don't see many teams going around flaunting Callum Mills as the M9 and Seamus Mitchell as the D7, F7. It's because that's a lot of money on your bench right there.
You'd be pretty lucky. That'd be a fair bit of SuperCoach bling, wouldn't it, mate? Just hanging around with those blokes on your bench. I tell you.
But yeah,
it's I think we both agree. Sub 400K.
DPP for cover is so vital. You can't underestimate how important it is.
Absolutely, mate. And back to that discussion point that we had earlier on as well, mate. Good on you, Spillsy. Miss you, mate. See you next week, brother. All right, next one is from Fanta. G'day, mate. Got a couple of questions here. First one, is it worth trading a guy like Warner or Young to an Uber Primo? Again, I think this is very trade dependent.
Yes. If you have the trades, you have the trades and you can get to them in one trade, yes. That's the important thing. You don't want to be using 2 trades to sideways a premium. So if you can go Warner plus, how much is Warner? 550K. If you have 60K, 70K in your bank and you can get him to live up, done. Pencil it in. Young is, just having a look here, is 472K. Is much harder to get to who are you really going up to? Who's an Uber? Jack Sinclair, maybe? I don't know I think Young to a Ridley type would be too sideways.
I was going to say, mate, the next part of the question here also Doherty or Ridley. So I'm assuming that, these are the 2 blokes that I'm assuming Fan is looking at, mate. So my 2 boys, bugger them off, Fan. Don't do it, mate. Don't do it, these bastards. Look, all right. So quickly back to the Warner scenario.
Yeah.
Probably saying that if you can do it in 1 trade up to an Uber, go for it. If you have to use 2, maybe look to leave that for now. And if you're looking to go Young, all right, Doherty or Ridley. Janath, you're a Carlton boy. Oh, look, I can't deny Ridley at this stage, mate. I really can't deny Ridley. With his current form over the last 5 weeks, really proved again, even with Jake Kelly in the side, which I know there was a little bit of discussion about, could that affect him too much? He put that to bed. That's an absolute myth because he went bang again. So in current form, as much as I hate to say it, because I traded him out after a bloody concussion 18, I'm saying Jordan Ridley. Are you going? Are you staying loyal to the doc or going Spills man and Ridley, mate? Number 14.
Ridley, 5 straight tons. He turned up once in his first 8 games. That's ridiculous to think about.
It makes me sick, Janath. It makes me sick.
Sorry, mate. It is.
But Jordan Ridley.
He's got his role is very similar to that of Luke Ryan for Fremantle. So it was always going to be a defender's dream playing at Optus when both teams just playing kick to kick with each other.
Unbelievable, mate.
And the funny thing is, I think Ridley's got a bit of the positive scaling, and he takes the mark, hand passes to the other team, and he still goes up. It's
And
it's
where was that earlier on? He was not getting that earlier on. He was getting these games where disposal efficiency was up, getting enough of it, intercept marks here and there. And I'm seeing 80s, 90s. I'm like, where's the love? Oh, man, it gets worse. It just gets worse. So,
but the
yeah,
role. It's the role.
thanks for that, Banner. Thanks for bringing him up again, mate. Yeah, but go,
Are we both
go
agreeing
Ridley,
with
mate.
Fridley in that case? Yeah.
Yeah. Both
He's
agreeing
still at
with
a good
Ridley, mate.
price as well. That he's a
Yeah,
520k, 530k for a guy that's gone 5 straight tons. That's easy.
absolutely.
Take
And
it.
imagine if you
Take it and
jumped
run.
on him 3 weeks ago
Yeah,
after even those 2 decent scores, you'd be absolutely laughing, mate. You'd be laughing now. So,
that's it.
yeah, thanks for that, Fanner. All the best, mate.
Good
Our
on
next
Fanner.
one is from Frogger. G'day, legend. How are you, Frogger? G'day, fellas. Keeping the good fight, DR. Your luck surely has to turn soon. I appreciate it, mate. Fingers crossed. Glad I've got Himmelberg, though, just in case, buddy, but appreciate it, brother. Gorn versus Briggs. Which would you retain? Which would you flick round 17? It is so easy for me, mate, because I'm an owner of both. Keep on the Kizza and flick Big Maxi, mate. Absolutely 100% hands down, in my opinion. Janath, do you feel differently to that at all, mate? You're going to stick up for Maxi Gorn?
Kizza.
Kizza,
Get a bit of Kizza in ya.
Yeah, get a bit of Kizza in you, mate. Look, just that role, mate, is not ideal. Kizza's going to be the main man there in the most highly rated players in the AFL, mate, over the last month. So definitely Kizza for me, mate. I would retain, I would flick Gorn. And then Walsh versus LDU versus the trademark. And do you know what? You can tell that Frogger is a big supporter of this channel because we have the trademark here. We got the trademark. For anyone that doesn't know, the trademark is obviously our man, Took Miller. We dubbed him the trademark TM a long time ago. He is a trademark because he just brings everything you would want to an AFL side and a SuperCoach team. So,
Wow.
do you trust? I would always I love the trademark that much. Like, Took Miller is legit my favorite non-lines play in the AFL for the reasons that I give him the nickname, the trademark. He just does everything really, really well. Hardest work in the comp. How easy is it going to be for him to integrate straight back into the side, straight into AFL football? Is LDU even on the park at the moment, Janath?
No,
Is
he
LDU
hasn't
playing
played.
at the moment?
I think he's been on the injury list for quite a while now.
Okay.
So let me just.
So
if I just
Walsh
have
is the only fit
quick
person
look.
here at this
So
stage.
he's a test to play this week, which
A test to
tests
play.
normally mean they normally get up, but it looks like Frogger wants for round 17 or 18. So you can actually screen LDU this week, Miller next week, and then come to your final mid edition in 2 weeks' time for round 18. That might be the way to go, I reckon.
Okay, well, look, let's just say that all players are fit. It is not even a matter of competition for me to trademark every single day of the week. And then I'm not really sure about LDU or Walsh. You'd go Walsh over LDU, mate? Yep.
The fact is that LDU started the season like a house on fire. And then
that was carnage, wasn't it? Remember that? And it locked out. SuperCoach locked out. Oh man, that was bad. That was bad.
Yeah, LDU's had scores of 97. Well, since he scored 143 and 155 to start the season, he scored 102, 90, 72, 59, and then the 122 in the game he got hurt in. So I mean, at least I know Walsh is going to stay on the park. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood as a Carlton fan. Took just for proven goods. Walsh, proven goods again. I think his role will settle down. It'll sort of, this is where you're going to play for the rest of the season. And then LD, you just can't trust him.
Beautiful, mate. So I think you covered that pretty well, mate. But lucky you can get another week. Bit of a look at Walsh again, mate. And hopefully, LDU and the trademark are in sooner rather than later. Cheers, buddy. All the best, my man. Next up is our man H. Now, Janath, we need to get this legend onto the podcast in the next couple of weeks because H is one of our favourite, another one of our very, very good mates as well. SuperCoach veteran, but best of all, absolute all-round good bloke.
How about this? How about this?
Mate.
I'll put a sort of a PSA for all of you guys watching. How about we have a special Swordplay podcast episode where we get 20 or so, or 15 or 20 sort of members or people that watch the potty, have watched the potty throughout the year, give them Get them on into the video, a couple of minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. We'll put a video together, sort of discussing how everyone's found the season, how we're all going. I know so many of you guys sort of follow and provide support for the channel on a week-to-week basis, and it's brilliant. So H on that list, and if any of you guys want to join for that, DR, I reckon we can make that work.
100. That's a bloody good idea, mate. That's a bloody good idea. And just a way of saying thank you as well to all the great support that we do get on the channel, because it has been phenomenal. Really the first full season that we've really given this a crack. And yeah, certainly looking to come back bigger and better in 2024. Scary thinking about 2024. Not there already, but great idea, mate. Great idea, because I'd love to actually hear from some of the blokes that we don't normally get to actually see and hear from. We get a lot of comments and great feedback, but fantastic idea. We'll make that happen. Maybe we'll have a chat about that, mate, and put out some details in the next couple of weeks. Great idea, mate. Great idea.
And if any of you guys want to be involved, feel free to hit us up. Put in the YouTube comments section. We'll love to have you guys on board.
100%, mate. 100%. But look, back to H's question here. What to do with Humphrey B. Bear? I think this is a pretty simple one, H. Get rid of him, mate. Get rid of him. Bloody Flanders, as you mentioned before. Stupid, sexy Flanders. Came in this week, took Humphrey's role. The week before, was it your Alex Davies type? Was it Fiorini? Someone else was in there that bloody shouldn't have been.
It was you that took his role, because they were getting pumped, and he thought, let's take out our best young mid out of there and put in Alex Davies, who's gifted games. He's no good.
I can't believe, I can't get my head around it, mate. He's one of the most talented players on the Gold Coast list. The issue is his break-even's 120, mate. The role just doesn't seem that it's going to be there anymore. He's got the really low score, 30-odd, that's going to be in his rolling system in the next couple of weeks, mate. Look, you could look to keep him as cover, but unfortunately, I think there is much better cover. I would actually use the trade, bud, and even look to move him onto a Himmelberg if you want some cover. Keys, yeah, absolutely. It's just not looking like it, is he, Janath? Just with that role, I just don't think he's going to be the reliable cover that we thought he could have been even 2 weeks ago, mate. Things have changed a lot for this bloke and this pick in the 2 weeks. So, in my opinion, I think that your only option here, mate, is to get out of the pick this week, mate. Downgrade or upgrade, because I'm afraid that you hold on to him for another couple of weeks. You're expecting him to be decent cover. All of a sudden, he's punching out 40s and 50s. This is just due to roll, not due to talent, but due to roll, 40s and 50s. By the time you think, damn, maybe he's not going to be good cover, he's lost that much cash that you can't really do much with him, mate. So that would be my opinion. Janath, anything different there for the great man, H?
Nah, not really. 2 quick things, though. Firstly, shout out to H, absolute legend in the community, one of your members on your channel as well. And the second thing is shout out to Humphrey B. Bear. I know that I wasn't watching on Sunday, but I did see it come around on First Crack that he kicked a goal, and the umpires, before they were deliberating, he said touched.
He did too. Touched. I noticed that.
Sportsmanship, that is something that you don't see very often. It was umpire's call as well, so it wasn't conclusive. So who would have basically got the goal and got us some extra points on field? But I think it's sometimes you got to think in the big picture, and that's a sign of a very good raised, well-raised sort of student of the game, I reckon.
Good human. Did the old Adam Gilchrist, mate. Did the old Adam Gilchrist there. So, yeah, but bloody hell, Humphers. Jesus, mate, in the bye week when all scores count. Do it when you're on the bench, mate. Be a good bloke when you're on my bench, please. But no. Well done, mate. Good to see that you did the right thing, buddy. Very honest player. Maybe Janath, maybe some credits in the bank. The next time that they're really not quite sure, and Humph does the old celebration, then the goal umpire goes, no, do you know what? Honest bloke here. Let's say we're going to give him the goal here, mate.
Let's give him the goal here.
Good karma. Credits in the bank. Good karma. Absolutely, mate. Next one here is from Begsy, another Twitter legend. G'day, Begsy. How you going, mate? G'day, gents. Best Uber mid to target. Thinking track, but Libba and Butters have me thinking. Can get anyone and have the usual suspects already. I think personally, Janath, and we've talked probably a lot about this, mate. We've probably covered it, but I think that Track and Libba are probably on a peg above Zach Butters. That's just personal to me, mate. And really, there's not much separates them. I think that you could quite happily go Libba and keep that extra money in the bank. I don't think that Track's going to out-average him maybe if at all. But really, in my situation, mate, given the fact that I didn't really need a heap of money in the bank on completing my side, I'm looking for that extra captaincy option. So
Yeah.
these are the hairs that you've got to split, I think, with these picks here, mate. You know, I'm going Track because the captaincy option. I really like his run for the SuperCoach finals. He plays some of those teams he's really beat up on. Janice said, on the other hand, with Libba, he's got that fantastic marble run. And what was it? It was Richmond, West Coast.
Yeah, Richmond.
Someone else. Really flip a coin type stuff, isn't it, mate?
It was Richmond, Hawthorn, West Coast, and then Geelong at GMHBA, which could get tagged in that game, but
don't know. Plenty contested pill, you'd think, for him anyway, mate. If he gets tagged,
and like Petrarca got tagged. I thought he'd knock someone out the way he was going. I was just hoping he didn't get suspended the week we brought him in. But
true that, mate. Yeah,
he was very annoyed, I must say. But he scrounged up a very good, like a good enough score.
He did.
But yeah, Begsy, I reckon if you believe that Petrarca's with that stretch of games, he could score 130 to 140 in each of those games and just put Libba away in those weeks. Whereas Libba's probably a bit more consistent. You know what you're going to get from him. Even because that Dogs team is now, the midfield is all there.
And maybe even you look at percentage ownership as well. More the lone wolf move would be to go that Libba type, or else, you could go with more of the pack. You know, Petrarca's still not in a heap of sides. 40% with the big boys, and then I think it's around 22 to 23% overall when you look at all sides. But maybe that's something else that you keep in mind. But again, mate, we are really splitting hairs with this pick. Hopefully we've given you some of the things to take into account anyway, buddy. All the best luck with the decision, mate, because, look, at the end of the day, I think both are good picks. You can't really lose out with either selection, mate. All the best, Begsy. Cheers, man. Our next one is from Chase. How are you, Chase? Good to hear from you, buddy, as always. Track and McRae versus Butters. Geez, how have I pronounced that? Versus Butters and Libba/Kelly. Mate, get Kelly out. If that's Jelly, get rid of him, mate. No, don't go there, man. Track could also be Clary as the midweek coming in for Wines. Again, mate, I would just go Track over Clary. No time frame for me to make the sideways, although we'll be doing it within the next 2 weeks. Oh, look, you could go Clary then, but all right, Track and McRae versus Butters and Libba. I'm probably leaning towards Butters and Libba. How about yourself, mate?
Yeah. Butters and Libba.
Yeah, it's probably the comparison there is probably, would you say Butters versus McRae, even if we're almost saying the first two are equal? Yeah, I'd go.
I just don't think Butters is value for money at the moment.
Yeah,
he's probably
that's true.
A bit overpriced, but he's just got. If you're going for ceiling, and Butters matches Track ceiling. He probably also goes close to his consistency, they're very similar SuperCoach players, except Track is probably got the higher average just because he's played that role more often. He's less likely probably tire out as the season goes on. And then Libba versus McRae, I think just a no-brainer then Libba.
Yep, absolutely with you, mate.
Yep.
Good on you, Chase. Appreciate it, buddy. Our next one is from our man Dan. Freo Tragic. How are you, legend? Hey, fellas, thoughts on getting Harris Andrews? Here we go, mate. The All-Australian lock as my D6/D7 to loop with Mitchell, which would be of the Seamus variety. His fixture and ceiling work better than Himmelberg. Huge pod too. Allows me to get Ashcroft to Mills next week. All right. Harris Andrews, mate. I'll tell you what. This was such an elite game. You really, I think, had to be there live to appreciate it, mate. I don't know how it looked on TV, if it looked as good as what it was live. But the bloke, just the way he was reading the play, you just knew that he was going to impact every contest. And it was so frustrating. I was sitting near a Saints supporter, and it's like every time they went down the line, you could just see from a mile away Harris just setting up for it, for the mark, for the spoil. And this poor bloke next to me is pulling his hair out going, for Christ's sake, I won't repeat some of the colourful language. Kick it away from Harris. But he was going nuts, mate. So, look, mate, look, he's not going to play like that every week. He's not going to play like that every week. I think And this is a thing that I often worry about when players have a really big week like this, where they really just remind the competition of how good they are. I think it also reminds opposition coaches of how important it is to make players like this accountable. So if you're asking me, Dan, Andrews v. Himmelberg, Himmelberg gets me over the line mainly because of that DPP, mate. But again, if you're going Andrews, it allows me to go Ashcroft to Mills next week. Having
Can I ask you a
Andrews,
question, DR?
yeah, mate.
If you were comparing between Mitchell and Andrews, what score would you take from Andrews to put him on field? 80? 85?
Between that and Seamus, yeah, it's like probably, aren't you?
What, 85?
I would say 85, but you got to think, well, what's the ceiling going to be like for Seamus? 90 is a pretty decent score, I think, from him.
I don't see him scoring 85 every week, but at the same time, if you're bringing in Andrews, you're bringing him in for his ceiling games, not for him to pepper 85 each week, right?
That's right.
But at the same time, you don't want to be fielding Mitchell in the weeks that Andrews doesn't get to 85, which is why I was asking you, because in his last... So every 6th week, he has a score above 120. So in round 3, round 9, and round 15, he's got 130, 122, and 157. But before that 157, his scores were 45, 87, 39, and 56 in the week.
No consistency, is there? No consistency.
He's a key defender. So, I mean, Dan, it's so hard because Ashcroft to Mills, that's got to be a straight swap, right? Like, there's got to be a world where you don't actually need any money to switch Ashcroft to Mills.
Do you know what?
They're both going to be the same price next week anyway.
We play West Coast in not this week, but the week after. I reckon, Dan, you could almost wait a couple of weeks for that Ashcroft to Mills move, because I expect Ashcroft to go pretty well against West Coast. Now, it may be just a matter of making this really easy. West Coast is going to score well. It may not be as simple as that, but I reckon you could even wait the couple of weeks there, mate. Look to get a really nice score from Ashy against West Coast and then trade the week after. But look, I'm not, as a Lions man, and as much as I'd love to say to you, Dan, yes, get Harris in your side, I couldn't recommend him, mate. I think Janice just went through some of the numbers there, and it seems like you almost an equal chance of getting a 50 or a 120 plus at this stage, mate. So, yeah, I suppose as a loop, those 120s could be handy, but I would go Himmelberg if you can, mate, and maybe wait on Ashcroft to Mills. Any different there, Janet? It's a really tough one, isn't it, mate? Not an easy question.
Well, if you really want a Brisbane defender, it's hard, isn't it? Because you're like, you could say Kitty Coleman, but he's not.
Pepsi Max King. Pepsi Max. No, he didn't go too well last week.
Well, Pepsi Max King has a higher average than Kitty Coleman. So, I mean,
yeah,
Coleman's got 1 ton this
year. Yeah, been really disappointing. Been really disappointing, Kitty, this year. I thought he'd be that bloke to take the next step. But yeah, we're getting off track, aren't we, mate?
Tangent,
Keep him back on. All right. All the best luck, though, Dan. Pretty tough one, brother, but you'll get there, man, because you're an elite coach yourself, buddy. Our next one is from Magic. Go a legend. Great to hear from you, man. Trade or hold Oliver. Johnson is my cover. I only have 2 trades left. I think he's a hold, 100%. Mate. He's a hold. 100%
Johnson's
hold.
Good cover for Oliver.
Absolutely.
That's good cover.
Absolutely.
Take that. Take a 98.
And 2 trades left.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'll be back in a couple of weeks, you'd hope, mate, if not the week after this. So I think with your situation with 2 trades, mate, absolute hold. I think if you're full premium, maybe with 5 or more, you could look to maybe trade. But yeah, I think Johnson's fine cover, mate, and he'll be back hopefully sooner rather than later. So hold for us, Magic. Cheers, buddy.
DR, can I just bring something up very quickly, mate? Elliot Yeo to miss up to a month with a hip injury. That's just coming out from Ryan Daniels. So the Yeo owners, geez.
Did Ab bring him in? I've got a feeling Abs did bring him in. He did, and he's got Jezza as well. Look, the last week's stock market video, mate. His symbol was a roll the dice symbol. I had a roll the dice symbol along with the caution symbol there, and my exact words were, if he stays healthy, can't roll, bonza. Absolutely, go for your life. But if you're relying on this bloke to stay healthy for even the next 9 rounds, particularly if he's going to be on field for you, it is just so dangerous, and it's roll the dice. You're going to get lucky or you're not. So,
Owned
look,
by 16% of the top 1%.
wow, there you go, mate. Look, the risks that you take with these picks, and when you say you feel sorry for coaches, you obviously do. You obviously do. But if you're trading in Elliot Yeo, this is the risk that you're getting yourself into. So you can't complain too much when news comes through that he goes down. But that is big news, mate, for a lot of sides, because, hey, at the end of you're probably patting yourself on the back recently if you've bought him in. All of a sudden, you are now slapping yourself across the face. So unfortunate, mate. Unfortunate there.
That is
now,
that's
I reckon
brutal.
we're almost through these questions here, matey. Next one we've got is from Maxi. G'day, Maxi. I'll be trading Humphrey and we'll have 688 to spend. Really nice situation there, mate. Should I go a more pod route, Libertich, Daniel, Dale, Ridley to try and gain ranks, or someone safer? Dawson, Track Butters, McRae, Nielsen, and Luke Ryan. I think it's really up to you, mate. I think it's personal opinion there, buddy. Look, I can't go past. We keep on bringing his name up, Libba. It's hard to go past Libba, Track,
but it doesn't have Dawson.
Yeah, Libba, Track, Dawson for me, mate. I'm going
Libba, Track, Dawson,
Neil is another
There's
one.
Any of those 4, mate. Seriously,
absolutely.
I don't think you can go wrong with any of those 4.
No, I think we're getting to that stage, mate, with some of these absolute uber primos. I'll throw a Rory Laird in there as well. Obviously, the Bond. You really can't go wrong, can you? Whatever floats your boat, I think.
Everyone has them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's almost to the point, where if you don't have them as captain, you sort of want them to middle out, get a 100, 105, because you're like, everyone has them anyway. So it's like, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, Nick Dacos is the absolute example of that, mate. But and again, mate, in regards to if you want to go a pod route, that's really up to you, mate. That's really up to you, buddy. That's probably a decision that you'll have to make yourself, Maxi. But yeah, we've given probably 4 standout options there, mate, that we both really like, buddy.
Yeah.
All the best of luck, my man. Our next one is from Watermelon Cruiser. That's clever, man. I like that. Watermelon Cruiser. 1 upgrade to go and only 5 trades left. Do I trade in Libba, Neil, Track this week or wait 1 week for Johnson Mitchell to increase in price? My one on-field rookie would be Himmelberg in this case, thinking this could be worth it to have extra cash for injuries, luxury trades. So,
if
personally...
you want to increase those pictures, DR, maybe?
Yeah, all right. Sorry, mate. Yeah, that'll help, won't it? All right, so... he's already got Himmelberg here.
He's got Clary.
Got Clary
as well, yeah.
So, so no one is covering. There's no DPP here, is there?
Well, you can move Dawson into the midfield.
Yep.
Will Day Dawson into the midfield?
Yep. So there's some cover there.
On.
Yep. Okay, and then
would trade.
We look at the next one. Yeah. Marshall, Briggs, Dunkley, Taranto, Rose Goulden. Geez, it's a fairly solid side here that you got here, mate. All right, so if I take that down again, do I trade in Libba Track this week or wait a week? Would you trade one of them in this week, Janath, or wait the week, buddy? Trade him in this week with 5 trades left?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And then you'd end with 3 trades and Himmelberger's cover, assuming Clary is back and something mysterious hasn't happened to Clary.
Geez, and so being able to have Bond, Oliver, Laird, and one of Clary, one of Track or Libba, that's an elite midfield, man.
That's it, Neil.
Wow. Yeah.
Would you go, because the thing with all these big guns is they have a compete in mid for that VCC. So he's got Bond, Clary, and Dunkley. So for Bond, you've got Libba. For Neil, you've got Dunks. And for Track, you've got Oliver. So it's like, you just choose whichever one you want to go with, because your point about the captaincies doesn't make any difference here, because you got that competition either way.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and you could even you've even argue that you'd have Dunkley as well in place of Neil. So yeah, well, put it this way, Watermelon, you're in a
Good
bloody good
position.
position at this stage, mate. So congrats on getting to that
But
stage,
yes,
man. Well done.
would make the trade this week. That's the main thing.
Yep.
Is that money isn't Johnson and Mitchell. I can't see Johnson coming close to, let's say, 30 points of whoever you trade in this week.
Yeah,
that's just being conservative. Maybe it's 20, but still, the extra every point counts.
absolutely, mate. Absolutely. So yep, go this week.
And bring in what's the other boy's name? Tyrell. Because I feel like you
point.
do need a swing for Himmelberg eventually.
Yep, beautiful, mate.
Yeah.
All right, we have too late for the week, Janath. We have first one is from Nathaniel Sears. G'day, Nathaniel. How are you, mate? Got 3 trades left. Need 1 mid primo at 472k or below. Straight swap from Humphrey. Which one of Cripps versus Steele versus Mills? Wow. Okay. So look, first of all, no offense to you, Nathaniel, but you're pretty much going bottom of the barrel type premiums here, mate. Going the real budget ones. All of these blokes on their day can give you elite numbers, and we've seen them all with uber premium history as well, mate. So this year just hasn't been their year so far. Cripps versus Steele versus Mills. Well, I'm a Steele owner. Cripps plays for the Blues, and we know what bloody Spills thinks about Mills. So this would normally be an easy one to split 3 ways here, Janath. But look, I'll start off with Jack Steele. He actually passed the eye test for me on the weekend, mate. I was there live. Seemed to get involved. There was one. Now it was one quarter. I think the start of the quarter, it may have been the third, where I reckon in the first maybe 8 to 10 minutes, he had 5 touches, 4 tackles. I think 4 of those touches were contested. And I just nudged Maxi next to me, who's also got him in his SuperCoach side, and said, here we go. Jack Steele, 120 plus here, mate. He's absolutely on now. It looks like he's changed a corner a little bit here, but the time on ground wasn't great for the rest of that quarter and couldn't deliver much more there. But all in all, really did pass the eye test and was relieved of a little bit of his strapping as well, which is always good to see. So Steele, if you had have asked me last week, this was like dire situation, like desperate to get him out of my team. Last week, yeah, still not wrapped with the bloke, but he looked a lot better. He looked a lot better. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to come good from here and give you a 100 plus average. If he can get a 95 plus average from here, I would absolutely take that with both hands. So I'm not advocating Steele, but I think he's looking a lot better than what he has so far. How about Cripper, Janath? Have you got any thoughts on Cripper from a Carlton point of view? Because I must admit, mate, he's not someone who I've even really been tracking lately. Just has not been on my radar whatsoever. Have you got anything you can give us on Mr. Cripps, mate?
I don't know. I just think it's too much. The roles there, Cripper is Cripper, but I just think he's been carrying an injury all year that's just sort of gone under the bridge sort of thing. Mills is probably the best option, not this week, next week. In terms of, I keep bringing him up, but Ben Keys is 462k. He's got DPP, and he's got the best 3-round average of any of these players. And so, I mean, he's probably a decent enough pick to put above all of these guys, maybe. Jack Steele is the one. He's the one that if he gets if he keeps getting healthy, he's just disposal numbers are way down. His tackle numbers are there. He's just not getting the pill as much, and he's not kicking as much, and that's really hurting him, big time. So it's not the ideal position. I'd go Ben Keys out of any of these guys, just because Callum Mills is just we're not going there. Not going to that well again.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there, mate. As crazy as it sounds, and I think what's really important is to try to take the names out of this. You know, when you're floating someone like Benny Keys and you've got 3 names there, Cripps, Steele, and Mills, you're thinking, hang on, what on earth is going Benny who? But you need to look at current form. You need to look at role. And I'm with you there, mate. I would put Keys ahead of all 3 of these blokes, and I can't believe that we're saying this, but I think that it makes sense. If you had to go one of these blokes this week, though, oh, geez, you wouldn't want to go either of them, buddy. You really want to, but
I'll tell you what, DR. In this role last year, Ben Keys was averaging 111.1 until round 17. From round 1 to round 17, he was averaging 111. And then he got moved forward to play as a forward
that's
tag.
decent.
I know he had a shutdown role in Adam Sard last year. 111.1 for a guy that you paid 468 for. That's similar to what he's averaging this year as well in this role. So you're like, all right, maybe
It's
Ben
not-
Keys is
it's
the real. He's a real defender. He's averaging what? I think it's basically 110 since he went into the midfield 4 weeks ago against your boys
they're
Lions.
impressive numbers. And wasn't he winning the Brownlow up for the first few rounds last season as well? Something
Probably.
ridiculous like that. Easy for Brownlow. So,
Your boy Ben Keys.
I love him. I love him.
X-line.
Yeah, absolutely love him, mate, because you know what he brings to the table each week, which is just 110% effort. So, yeah, mate, if you can, Nathaniel, bit of a pod there in Benny Keys instead. Maybe just throw a coin, toss a coin. Sorry, mate, with the other ones. Just, yeah, none of them are having terrific seasons, mate. Thanks, that buddy. And the last one is from Harrison Barnes. G'day, Barney. G'day, fellas. Quick question. Marshall or English out for Briggs for the cash gen, as I don't have any trades left. 3 with 2 upgrades and 200k. Got to get rid of Dev and Humphrey. Who you getting? Go Lions. So got to get rid of Dev and Humphrey. Quick question. Marshall, English out for Briggs. I am keeping English,
Briggs.
mate.
Out for Briggs or out
Marshall.
to have Briggs?
Marshall English out for Briggs for the cash gen. Oh, sorry. So is he looking to trade Briggs in?
With 3 trades left, 2 upgrades, I would not be touching Marshall or English in your situation, Harrison. Got to get rid of Dev and Humphrey. So maybe just go Humphrey. Humphrey at 400k?
Close to, mate. Yeah, close to. Yeah.
Or maybe just under. Humphrey at 394 plus 200k. You got 590 odd k to get a mid. 590k. You can get a Dawson, Sarong, Green.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Parrish look decent. Yeah. That's probably where I'd be going. I wouldn't be touching Marshall or English, Harrison. It's just not enough trades to be mucking around. And getting Briggs, who it's probably a sideways trade at this point. Even if he nets you 100k, the trade's worth more at this stage.
I would agree. And just in case we've read that wrong in any way or anything, Harrison, maybe just reply with your with a screenshot of your team there, buddy. And that would be a bit of a help anyway, mate. Just in case we've read, because I think I read that wrong to Janath there, but I'm definitely reckon Janath's right there. But send us through your team anyway, man. Always happy to give you a bit of a hand there, Harry. But thank you very much to all of the people that sent through a question for the mailbag. We are done for this week, Janath. Awesome, mate. I reckon, buddy. Is it time for trades and captains for the week, mate? Captains for the week?
Yeah. So I guess I'm looking at Dunkley into, now this may be the biggest toss of a coin all year. Bontempelli against Fremantle. He already went 180 odd earlier this year at Marvel. Or Laird against North at the same time at Adelaide Oval. Those are 2 mint matchups. If they weren't playing at the same time, that's the easiest VCC combination all year. It just isn't happening. So got to choose one of them. I'm leaning Bont at the moment just because I think Liam Shields went to Liberatore in that Bulldogs game. Was it Liam Shields or Will Phillips? One of them went to Liberatore,
didn't he? Yeah.
It was like Libba still scored 116 because he's Libba. But I mean, Laird is the exact same player, I reckon, in terms of stature, in terms of archetype, like how they play. They're very similar players.
Good.
So Bont against Freo, who give up points to midfielders. I think this is a really good matchup at Marvel as well. And Bont's in just highest average in playing the league, 130. That's crazy. We knew it's coming, though.
It is, mate. It is.
Yourself?
I'm pretty much with you there, having the same conundrum. So I think Dunkley, in recent form, I think he's got a 5-round average of 141 or something close to that, just in insane form. maybe a little bit of a letdown last week with his, 122, but I think he's just going to be a really safe VC, mate. And in current form, such an easy loop with the early game for the VC.
What do you
And
take
then
from him? What are you taking?
Oh, look,
It's tough.
I'm still going to say 125. I'm still going to say
Maybe.
125.
Maybe. What if you just bypass Dunks? He's got a mint matchup against Richmond as well. What if you bypass Dunkley and just put the VC on Bont and just see how he goes? Do you have would there be a fallback in that sense?
Yeah. So who was our fallback? So if we put the VC on Bont, well, I'd have
Sinclair against West Coast.
Possibly, I'd have a Butters against Essendon, who's projected to go. What's he projected to go? 144, if you don't mind, by Supercoach Gold. Don't know how accurate that's going to be, but Butters would be that real pod option. Got your Hawthorn, Carlton. No one really stands out. You've got, Petrarca's playing GWS, but don't know what history's like there.
So his last three against GWS is 125 average. And at TIO he averages 106.7, including a 141 and a 127 in his last two at TIO. So we'll get the data up on third man up, the captaincy data in a couple of days.
Absolutely. Do you know what? That is, to be honest, that is the best resource each week for your captaincy stuff. Make sure that you are following the third man up, because it'll be updated a little bit later on the week as well, just in case any late news comes through about injuries, suspensions, etc., etc. So, definitely follow the third man up for all of your captaincy advice. But look, mate, there are, I suppose, a couple of options there, and your Petrarca backup, your Sinclair in recent form.
I think a 127 from Dunkley. We'll take it.
127, very specific. 127. I can't get that.
You'll get 126, and we'll be like, oh. Do we take it? Do
you get to go it? Oh, look, the trouble is they are two very juicy options in Bont and Laird there, mate. But look, I'll think there's a lot more to probably think about now that you threw out the option of chucking one of these boys, Laird or Bont, as the VC. I hadn't considered that. I will consider that, but at this stage, mate, plans are Dunkley into probably Bont. I'm just going Bont over Laird, but. Very, very close there, mate. And
we discussed our trades earlier.
I think we just want to. We put our final teams up. We just want to wrap
up with Spills's.
Yeah, we do have. Sorry, I removed that one. Wrong one. We'll get on to Spillsy's one here. Now we've got a bit of a visual for him. So his trades for this week: out Gawn and out Humphrey, in the cement bag, and Ethan Stanley. A mid-forward loop. So Spills has got the same idea as us, mate. Bringing that non-playing player that is a loophole, but obviously the mid-forward is working better for him as well. I need a mid-forward loophole to help with injuries for the rest of the season. No one with mid-DPP in my actual midfield. So I need that link. I've already got two midfield links in my midfield forward links in my midfield. So Spills doesn't have that. That's what he needs there. 194K in the bank, 2 trades left, more than enough cash to target. You know who next week. Now, I've got no idea. Possibly Janath. It's the man that we see here on the right-hand side. Now, I reckon Spills has sent a few more cheeky messages. I reckon they're out on a bit of a speed date at the moment, Callum and Spillsy, mate. Getting a few stiff drinks together. But look at the cheek of this man. Hey, legend, great to see you back on the weekend. Keep you finish off the season strong. Keep up the ripping form from yourself. And good luck to you and your Swannies. Doesn't mean that good luck to the Swannies whatsoever. Absolute suck here. Kudos. That is Spills' calling call. Kudos there. So sucking up to Callum.
I reckon we're missing a couple of DMs underneath that. Oh, how are you going, Callum? What are you up to tonight?
Absolutely, mate. We can't see all that should be here, mate. So Spills will continue with his love affair, Callum Mills, next week. And he's absolutely on the same page as us here. Possible VC Dunkley, C, Laird, or Bont. And in brackets, I couldn't fit the last one here, need help on this one. So at this stage...
we didn't help him.
Nah, at this stage, Spills, we haven't. But maybe check the third man up as we know that you do, Spills. I'm sure that we'll get on the phone at some stage this week anyway, legend, and discuss this in further detail. But we're pretty much in agreement here that the three of us, Janath, Dunkley is a really good VC shout. If not, get Laird or Bont absolutely 100% in your loop, whether that's backup captain or your VC. And if they don't tickle your fancy, and I'm pretty sure that between Bont or Laird, whichever one you go with your VC, they should give you a decent score. Maybe go for a pod that you've got your Sinclair Butters type. But we've got a few pretty decent options this week by the look of it anyway, buddy.
That's it, mate.
All right.
Should we wrap up?
Well, I think that is probably time to wrap up. So, unfortunately, we didn't have the great man with us this week. It's never as good as it is, without Spills. But he'll be back next week. Guarantee you, he will remember to pick up that laptop from work. I've done it many times, mate. Left the computer at school. I think even before a podcast, I had to race back and grab it, mate. But I suppose that just shows the difference between us, the commitment here of someone, Janath, that's actually willing to make the 40-minute trip there, 40-minute trip back to get my laptop for the podcast, and Spills that can't go down the road to work. So a little drive-by there for you, Spills, mate. Couldn't help it. Sorry, buddy. Couldn't help it.
Stuck in, Spills. But we've been copping it all year. He deserves it here and there.
Exactly right, mate. Got to kick a great man while he's down, as they say. But look, Janath, it's just great, mate. Great always to chat with you, but also great to finally finalise those sides, mate. It's a bloody good feeling, isn't it, mate? After all the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into making
those team previews,
side.
mate.
That's it, mate. That's it. It's a relief. It's a relief in a way. And look, I don't think we're ever going to be completely happy. There's always things that you want to tinker, always things that you'd like to change, but it's tough getting that ideal side, mate. And as we mentioned before, if you do have that ideal side, you're probably sitting number one on the table at the moment, buddy. So all the best of luck to you this week, Janath, and all the best of luck to everyone that is listening. Really appreciate the support as always, guys. And we will see you for episode 14 next week. So all the best. Good to chat with you, Janath, and we'll see you legends soon. Cheers, bye.